Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started today. My time is showing 5:30, so there may still be some people who are going to be joining us, but just for the sake of time today, I'm going to get started. So I want to thank everyone very much for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to support virtual schools as a school administrator. So before we get started, I'll just do an introduction of myself. My name is Bridget Grogan. I'm an adoption specialist here at D2L. So I help school boards use Brightspace to ultimately help the teachers and students get the most out of what Brightspace has to offer. I'm a former secondary school teacher, so I taught primarily English and family studies, which is what prompted my move over to D2L. I was still a teacher when COVID hit, and I wanted to help other teachers feel equipped to teach students online and use the tools that they have. Short agenda of what today is going to look like. So we're only together for a half an hour today. So I'm going to try to cover as much as I can in the short period of time that we have. So I'm going to go over what is Brightspace and why Brightspace. So some of this might be information that you've heard before, or it might be a refresher of some stuff that you are aware of, but hopefully I can teach you some new things today as we're going along. And then I'm going to show you a look at the platform to really highlight some tools within Brightspace that will be beneficial for you to take back to your teachers or for you to be aware of as an administrator. And then I'll leave you with a bunch of resources for today. So there's not going to be a question and answer period at the end of today's webinar. Since we only have half an hour together, I wanted to make the most of our time, but there are some other options for questions. So just some housekeeping items on that. Today's webinar is open to anyone in North America. So for consistency's sake, I'm going to be using the term district. You might be familiar with the term board or a different term, but just so that we're all on the same page today, I'm going to be using the term district. On that piece about questions, if you have any questions about Brightspace administration needs, please contact your Brightspace administrator. If you're not sure who your Brightspace administrator is, you can email k12ont@d2l.com. You can also use that email to push any other inquiries about Brightspace as well. And if you hover along the bottom of your Zoom today, you'll see that there's a Q&A section. And I have some of my great colleagues with me today. I have Heather Ryan, who is the Brightspace expert, and she knows everything that there is to know about Brightspace. So she has joined me today to answer some of your questions as we go along. I also have some of my adoption specialist team with me. I have Anita and Anna here who will be copying and pasting questions that don't get answered. So if you don't get your answers to your questions today, don't worry, you will get an answer, and hopefully Heather can help you along the way. The webinar recordings and slide decks will be on the Educator webinar site where you registered, so look out for those later this week or early next week. The answers to all of the questions will also be posted on those slides. So if you're feeling like we're going pretty quickly through the stuff today, don't worry, the information will be posted for you to rewatch whenever necessary. And the last thing I'll just touch on is that if your district doesn't have Brightspace, please email k12ont@d2l.com. Although today's webinar is aimed towards those who have Brightspace currently, if you're here to get some more information about it, please direct all inquiries to that email. Just some other housekeeping items in terms of understanding some terms today. The words D2L and Brightspace might be used interchangeably where you are from, but D2L is the company and Brightspace is the product, similar to how Apple is the company and Apple makes Macs, iPhones, that sort of thing. Brightspace is also extremely customizable, so you might be used to it being a different term depending on how your district has branded it. So just knowing that those are the terms today that I'll be using. And then I'll also direct you to the online community, the Brightspace community, which is a great space where we have educators, administrators, as well as D2L staff on there connecting, answering questions, and talking with one another. So if you leave here with some questions, this is a great space to go if you would like the answers quickly. Up on the screen here, I just have some reasons about why educators love Brightspace. So one of the main things we've heard about Brightspace and the reasons that educators love it is because it helped both before the school closures and during the school closures, and it's adapted to everything in between. So there's a bunch of different reasons up there, and I'll be going into those in a little bit more detail. But one of the main things I'd like to highlight is the equity of our platform as well as the worry-free technology that we have. Those are two main reasons that we've heard why educators love Brightspace. And based on the feedback that we hear, we are constantly updating our platform to make sure that teachers, educators, and students are getting the most out of the platform that they can. So Brightspace is a few different things. Firstly, it is learning centered. So we like to think of ourselves here at D2L as an education company first and a technology company second. Everything is designed with education in mind, when we believe that the technology should help the pedagogy, which is a big reason why a lot of our staff here at D2L are former educators. I was drawn to D2L because of the work that they're doing for education technology. And we really think with everything in terms of education first. Some of the reasons we do that, or some of the ways that we do that, are by aligning the content, assessments, rubrics, and more to state and provincial standards. And I'm going to highlight when we look at the platform how you can do that. There's the ability to set up learning pathways for self-pacing. So teachers have the ability to go in and set up different release conditions as well as special access for their students if they'd like to set up different learning pathways for them. It's a very simple way to make sure that students are getting the material that they need, and it's also not a ton of work on the part of the teacher. We have rich feedback that includes both audio and video to meet the needs of all of our learners. So we understand that not every student can look at a piece of text and interpret it well. So we've included rich feedback for both audio and video, addressing the needs of if students can't be on video or just want to hear the voice, making sure that we have all of that, which again, I will highlight when we take a look at the platform. And one of my favorite tools is the dedicated portfolio app for students of all ages that carries artifacts over. So if there's a student that is a Brightspace student from kindergarten and they continue on their educational career with Brightspace, their teacher in grade 8 can take a look at their portfolio and see what that student has done, what work have they compiled, and get a really rich understanding of that student's history. We're also an all-in-one platform. So as I said before, it's worry-free technology that's consistent. We can pull different tools and apps, but use it as an all-in-one space. This is very helpful for both teachers and parents. Parents don't need to struggle to learn a bunch of different platforms. A lot of schools will use Brightspace as their main hub, and you can pull things like your OneDrive and your Google Drive into Brightspace. So students only really have to become familiar with one platform. There's a variety of tools to support your pedagogical needs. So again, we create all of our different tools with pedagogy in mind and make sure that we address those with every tool that we create. It's a very robust platform with tools to support every educator and student. So there's a lot that you can do within Brightspace. And a lot of the stuff that I'll be talking about today will just be best practice information and not so much a tool demo. So if you're feeling like you'd like some more information about the tools, I will provide you with that at the end. But there is so much you can do with Brightspace and the different tools individually. That way we meet the needs of every educator as well as every student. And we're a one-stop shop for you and your students. So that means that teachers know exactly where they need to go. Everything is right there for them. All of their courses that they're teaching are in one main space. Brightspace is inclusive, and this is one of the main reasons that I love Brightspace and that I was drawn to D2L. Brightspace integrates with third-party assistive technologies, and we are compliant with accessibility standards. So we're designed and tested against WCAG 2.1 level AA standards. Which means that we partner with screen readers and assistive technologies and diction devices to make sure that students are really getting everything that they need, and we're addressing all learners. Mobile leader to help you reach learners at every location on any device. So we are built with responsive design that can be accessed on any device. Oftentimes, if there's an app or a certain web page that you become very familiar with and you love, it can look a little bit different if you were using it on an iPad and then you go to a laptop. It can be a little bit tricky to try to figure this out, especially for students who are still learning this technology. One of the great things about Brightspace is that we're built with responsive design, so it'll look the same on a mobile device as it will on an iPad and a computer. So students do not need to learn the platform in 3 different manners. And we have a built-in accessibility checker. So we have a team here at D2L dedicated just to accessibility and making sure that our platform is meeting the accessibility needs of all of our learners. And I'll show you the accessibility checker when we take a look at the platform. Brightspace is collaborative and communicative. So we have embedded video tools, including simple video recordings and classroom-friendly web conferencing tools. So if you've used our virtual learning environment, you're familiar with that. We can keep a connection with students through this as well by having the audio and video features that I called out earlier. And it's a great way to have teachers still connect with students while teaching remotely or not getting to see them every day. They're able to still create those rich connections with those students. We have a dedicated parents view to serve up information around learning resources and teacher feedback. So Brightspace for Parents is a window into the classroom for those parents who would like a stronger understanding of what their student is doing every day. And this is great if they have multiple children in the same school or the same Brightspace. They can take a look and see what their child is working on. If you're not sure that your district has Brightspace for Parents or you'd like some more information, please feel free to ask about that. Brightspace is organized, so schools can have their own branded and customized landing page that links to courses and other communication channels. So as I said at the beginning, you might not even be familiar with the term Brightspace because your district may have branded it as something different. So this is one of the great things about Brightspace is that you can call it what you'd like to make sure that students are all on the same page. Teachers can copy course content for year over year. So I'll show you in a little bit some great tools that teachers can use to copy year over year. This makes sure that teachers do not need to create the same content with every course that they're teaching if they're teaching it for a number of years. We also have our teacher dashboard, which is our class progress tool, which I'll show off as well. And this shows trends across students by reviewing several metrics at one time, such as content, discussions, assignments, and grades. So this gives teachers a really good understanding of what their students are doing, what work they're on, and what teachers might need to put a stronger emphasis on. And lastly, Brightspace is sophisticated. So we are integrated with third-party tools, including Student Information System, which means that the classes are already loaded with student data for teachers, and teachers do not need to go searching for their student data. It is all in their Brightspace for them. Reports include login trends, course participation, and learner achievement across all courses within a school or any other organizational unit. So as I said before, we have that great class progress tool to get a strong understanding of what students are doing. And these reports can include when students have logged in. So you can also take a look and see what students might need to be logging in a little bit more, where they're participating and where they could be participating more, as well as their achievement across their courses. So this is really, really great for those teachers who don't get to see their students every day and who are teaching remotely and virtually. They can still get a good understanding of what their students are working on. So let's take a look at the platform. So there's a lot within the platform and it's an extremely robust tool, but I'm going to be taking a look at a few different things today. So I'll show you the nav bar or the navigation bar, the content and expectations, the assessments tools, the audio and video feedback, particularly with that, communication tools, the announcements and activity feed, class progress tool, and I'll highlight some other tools while we're in there as well. So I'm just going to jump into my environment here. So here I am in my Brightspace classroom. Yours might look slightly different depending on how your organization has set it up. So just being aware that depending how your district has chosen to set up Brightspace, it might look a little different. If you have some questions, please direct those into the chat. I've set mine up to be a grade 9 English class. So up at the top here, I have my nav bar or my navigation bar. And here I have some tools. Again, yours might look different. These are the tools that my grade 9s use daily, and I have them organized in a different way. So depending on how yours is set up, you might have these icons, which are really great to help those learners who need to see exactly what they need to go to right when they need to go to it. Or it might not have the icons as well. So I'll show you what it could look like to see what you might be more familiar with. So this might be how your nav bar looks as well. It does the same thing, just this time without the icons. So I'm going to show you how to link expectations to your content. So I'm going to jump into my content here. And here I have my content built out. I have some units, some modules, and I'm going to show you how to pull expectations right into this. So I'm going to go up to my expectations bar up here. And you can see that right now I have 0% of my expectations covered, and this is because I don't have any expectations linked in here. So I'm going to go to add or remove expectations. And this is great for teachers to keep track of what they've been doing, especially if you're not with those students all the time, as well as you as an administrator to take a look and see what your teachers are working on. So we have two options here. You can add an expectation. So teachers have the ability to create their own expectation. So this is where you can use some of that user student friendly language and create your own expectation. So I could say, good job working hard. And that could be my expectation, maybe just for them to try to work very hard. So I can save that. And if I go to this arrow here, I can add lower level expectations. So I can add things within that if I would like as well. What I'm really going to call out today is how to import from the Achievement Standards Network. So if I click on this here, I can select the jurisdiction that I'm in. So I'm going to go to Ontario because that is where I am located. I can select the subject. So as I said before, I'm using mine as grade 9 English. And then I can select the curriculum that I would like. So grade 9, education level, grade 9. So it really takes me through the process. And then I have English academic as well as applied here. You can even press the arrow down to go even deeper into the expectations if you do not want to bring them all in. So teachers have the ability to do it whenever they would like. That way, if they're only working on a few expectations at a time, they're not overwhelmed with how many are in there. For the purpose of today, I'm just going to import all of grade 9 academic English. So now I have all of my academic English standards within here, which is really great. You'll see there's a little locked icon here, which means that it cannot be edited by teachers because it has been imported from the ASN. So we showed before how you can add expectations and create that kind of user-friendly language if that's something your teachers are looking to do, but you cannot alter the way that the ASN has pulled it in. So now I'm going to go back to my content and show you how to link these expectations to some work. So I'll jump into my poetry unit here and just click on my spoken word poetry. And if I would like, I can link some expectations to it. So I can go to these three dots here, view expectations, and it's telling me that it is not aligned to any expectations yet. So I can edit expectations to get started. And here's where I can search for the expectations that I would like to link. So you'll see I have a large number of expectations in here, which is why some people might choose to go at lower levels to start. I'm going to just bring this one in and I will save those changes. And now I can see that this expectation has been aligned. So once I exit out of there, I can click on my expectations bar up here to see a greater view of what expectations are being used. So I can see that in my introduction, I have 2 used here. My poetry one I have here. And you can also display only expectations which have no course material. So this gives me a greater understanding of where I need to put those some expectations and what stuff I might need to focus on with my students. So that's how we can add expectations to content as well as link it into the content, which is great to get a stronger understanding of what students are working on. The next thing I'll show is how to use the audio and video feedback. So I'm going to go into my assessments tool. For me, I'm going to go to my assignments. And I can see I have a student who submitted my stop motion assignment. So if I click on this, I can go down to his submission. And I see that Sammy's student has submitted his assignment here. So I have stop motion assignment. This is my stop motion assignment. I hope you like it. And teachers have a really great ability to create some dynamic feedback for their students. So I have my annotation tools all up here. I can put in text box, sticky notes, I can download it, I can highlight and write on it. That way I'm really giving students that same kind of thing that I would do in class with them, but just putting that online. What I'm really going to call out is the audio and video feedback here. So the audio feedback, you can record you providing feedback through the audio feature. I'm going to show off the video one today. So this is a great way, again, to connect with those students while being virtual. So if I click on record video, you'll see my face here in a second. Hello. So you can see that if you already have a file, you can upload that. You can also do a new recording for up to 30 minutes. So this was a COVID measure that we put in. We saw that teachers needed longer. So we put in 30 minutes for them to have their video. So I'm going to create a recording for Sammy. Hi, Sammy, great work. I'm very happy with your assignment. I can't wait to keep seeing what you're doing this semester. Thank you. And then I'll stop the recording and it plays back automatically. So that's why I just added it quickly there. Can add a title. So I can say Sammy feedback. I can add a description to give Sammy some more information there. What I'm really going to call out here, so this is great for the accessibility feature as well. I can put the audio language that I was speaking in, and I can generate captions from audio for my students. So this is great for those learners who will benefit from that video of seeing their teacher explain their work or talking to them about their next steps. But this is also helpful for those students who might need to follow along with some words along the screen. One thing I'll call out about this is that it is not a translating tool, so you have to choose whatever language you're speaking in. It is just a closed captioning tool, and students also have to turn on the closed caption. So it's not automatically going to turn it on for them. Students will have to select if they would like it on. So just making students aware of that. I can add that in, and then it puts it right there for me. I can add his grade and publish Sammy's work. It's been published, and then I can go back. So that's a great way to really connect with your with students through the audio and video feedback, and making sure that they feel connected with just through their feedback, and making sure they understand their next steps. The next thing I'm going to show is the announcements and activity feed tool. So I'm going to jump back to my home screen here. And down here, I have both my activity feed and my announcements. So these are both really great tools, and they look pretty similar, but they serve two very different purposes. So at D2L, we like to think of the activity feed like the agenda. So if you had an agenda, you would write a note to students to take home, parents to sign it, that kind of thing. Whereas the announcements is more of the bulletin board. So if you were to create a really dynamic bulletin board for students in the class, teachers have the ability to do that as well. So I'm just going to show the announcements tool. So if I go into my announcements here, I can see this announcement that I had created for students. And then I can go and create a new announcement. So if I go back to announcements, create a new one. You could call it whatever you'd like. So I'm going to say, hi, students. This could just be teachers trying to connect with students or giving them some information on that bulletin board piece. The feature I'd like to call out here is this accessibility feature. So I can put in whatever I would like to. Good work, students. Keep it up. And then there's a ton of HTML editing tools which teachers have access to here to make sure they're creating really dynamic announcements for their students. But what I'm going to show off to you today is the feature down here. So this is our accessibility checker, and this is following us along in every HTML tool that we have throughout Brightspace. If I click on this, it's going to tell me any accessibility issues that I might have. So this could be if teachers are creating something with very low colored writing, if it's like a low yellow that students might not be able to see, or the font size is very small. It's letting the teacher know that there might be some accessibility issues, which is very, very helpful to make sure they're meeting the needs of all of those students, especially if they're teaching virtually and might not get to see them all the time to check in on them. Okay, so then I could publish my announcement here. Hopefully teachers would add a little bit more to it to make it pretty dynamic. And then I have it pop up on my announcements here. So the difference between the announcements tool and the activity feed, again, is that the activity feed is meant to be kind of that fleeting thought. So you'll share something with the students and you'll see that it has similar features. So I can go to my attach and pull in different things from Google Drive, my OneDrive. I can add that video from the web as well. So I still have those similar features, but I can do a little bit more with the announcements tool. So this one is meant to be, again, more just those daily things you want to remind students about. So bring in money for your field trip, and you can have students respond to that. So these are just two great features that teachers can use while they are teaching virtually. One thing I do want to show with the announcements tool here, I'm just going to jump back into it. Click on my announcements. If if I go to edit this tool, I can add some release conditions to it. So as I said, with setting up those pathways, those learning pathways for students, you can create some release conditions to make sure that the students are only getting the material when they need it or when they're able to have it. So the release conditions, if I go down to here, I can attach release conditions. If I go to create and attach, you'll see all of my options here. Everything I've created within Brightspace will be here. So maybe I would like students to have visited a content topic, which means that students will have to access this content topic before this announcement will be released to them. So I can select the topic that I would like, and I can create that condition. So here it's going to tell me that students must visit the content topic, spoken word poetry, and then this announcement will be automatically released to them. So this is, again, a really great feature for teachers to use while teaching virtually, because they have the ability to create those learning pathways for students depending on their needs. Teachers also have the option to create as many release conditions as they would like, and they can choose if all conditions must be met or any conditions must be met. So it's just a matter of knowing the student's needs and what is best for those students. The next thing I'm going to show here is the class progress tool. So as I talked about before, we have this great tool that gives teachers a really good look at what their students are doing. So if I look at my class progress tool, just looking here, I can see I only have 4 students in my class. I'm sure your schools would have much more students, but I can get a good understanding of what my students are doing. So if I go back into our SAMI student here, just on this progress summary page, this home page here, I have a good understanding already of what he's been doing. So I can see what grades he's received, the expectations that are available, his contents that are visited. So I can also see the amount of time spent on those content topics, which is representative of how long the student had it open. So it's hard to know sometimes if maybe a student had something open and then got distracted with something else, but it's good to keep an eye on so teachers can take a look and maybe see that if they only expect students to spend 1 minute on a piece of content, but majority of students are spending 20 minutes on it, that might be something they want to dive into a little bit further. I also have the option to go a little bit deeper here and check about my grades. And I can see the feedback that was modified, the assignments, and get a really strong understanding about how Sammy is doing. So I can see his summary as a whole, as well as take a deeper look into what his work looks like. And this will let me know where I need to check up on. So this, again, is great for those virtual learning because you might not see those students every day and know how they're doing and have those just daily check-ins with them. You can do that through here as well. And I can see what I might need to talk to Sammy about for his next steps. The last 2 tools that I'll just call out here are the portfolio tool, which again, I mentioned carries with students from year to year. So jumping into here, I can see my students and I can go back into Sammy and I can see that his previous portfolio from 2018 and take a look at the work he's done previously. So as a teacher, I can have a strong understanding about what this student has done. And it also takes away that piece where teachers might have to go and talk to one another about, I know you had this student last year, can you tell me a bit about them? Teachers can get a good understanding right from here. Okay, and then I'm just going to jump back into my PowerPoint here. So I know I briefly went over a lot of that. Again, if you're looking for some more information about the tools themselves, I'll provide you with those resources. But hopefully this is some great stuff that you can take back to your teachers or use yourself about supporting your teachers with virtual learning. I'm going to leave you with some resources here. So these resources will all be able for you to see once they are posted on the Educator webinar page later this week or early next week, as well as any answers to the questions that we've had today. I want to thank you all very much for joining me today. My Twitter handle is there if you'd like to give me a follow for me to share some more information about D2L and Brightspace. Again, thank you all very much for joining me and look out for these slides as well as the recording on the Educator webinar page this week. Thank you so much.